This is Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in San Jose at the California Democratic Party Convention. We are joined by Chiang. He is the treasurer of the state of California. Sir, I'd like to speak with you about housing. There is no question that our state is facing a crisis on many levels. Market rate housing, affordable housing, and then homelessness. But let's start on the question of affordable housing. With the elimination of redevelopment, jurisdictions have not had tools to develop affordable housing. But you have some ideas. Tell us about one specific idea that you have.
So one of my principal priorities last year when I first became the treasurer of the state of California was to work on a rewrite for the first time in over a decade of the affordable housing regulations.
Okay.
I sit on 3 of the state's 4 housing authorities, and so what we wanted to do is we wanted to cut red tape. We wanted to create greater incentives for developers to take on additional risk, but we would allow them to make a little bit more money so that they could try to bridge the gap in regards to affordable housing. When you finance affordable housing, you have a federal component, a state component, and a local government component. And we witnessed during the recession where all 3 of those entities had financial issues, so the contributions weren't as strong. So we wanted to create the incentives. California still has the opportunity to access over $6 billion in federal funds, so we wanted to make it easier to access those
And
funds.
let's focus on that. What was the problem? Why wasn't California able to access that $6.5 billion from the feds?
Well, part of it was market access in regards to, you get financing maybe from financial institutions and others. And so when we had a breakdown in the financial systems, a lot of the banks wouldn't participate. But also we wanted to create greater incentives to get the developers to say, we're a little bit concerned what's happening with the marketplace, the lack of stability of other sources of financing. So we've gotten California's finances to a much stronger position. We're saying we'll let you make more money so you'll take on more risk so that they're willing to do so. In fact, thus far, we have nearly twice as many applications for developments in the state of California. The 3rd largest developer in California said, hey, we're going to develop, because of your change in rules and regulations, 1,000 additional units.
Affordable.
Affordable. So we're going to fulfill the dreams of 1,000 additional families in California.
Explain what that means. Now that this money is freed up, what does it mean that they're going to be building affordable housing?
So it depends on the type of affordable as you define, right? Because there's affordable housing, deep affordability. You have the homeless who can't make that contribution. You have special needs, you have seniors, and you have others. So oftentimes they'll look at 60% of area median income. But when I'm asking deeper affordability, saying, can you take on deeper affordability? Can you build housing and try to finance for 50% median income or 40% median income?
So are you looking at, for example, let's say a condominium complex is being built, that they would set aside a certain number of those units for affordable residents? Is that what we're looking at?
That's one of the options. They can do a mixed income option, or they could develop an entire portfolio or facility that is comprised of affordable housing.
And the way they make it pencil out is through these funds that come through the feds?
It's a combination. So you mentioned earlier the redevelopment agencies, and when the redevelopment agencies were in existence, one of the components is a 20% set aside for moderate and low income housing. So the cities could make their 20% set aside contribution to try to narrow that financing gap to build affordable housing.
So are you looking as treasurer or otherwise to create programs for the local governments? Because look, I speak with members of city councils quite often, counties quite often. There's a lot of frustration because they want to create affordable housing in their communities. They have no tools. Redevelopment's gone. Enterprise zones are a shell of their former selves.
So we partner with them. In addition, we had an aggressive legislative package. So to how do we maximize the ability of the tax credits that are available to the state of California. And then as you mentioned earlier, on another program, Tony Atkins, David Chu had programs, the governor vetoed it.
That's many people's concerns, is that Tony Atkins had worked out with the realtors, of all people. The realtors were agreed to a document fee, and the governor vetoed.
Well, those efforts have not ended, right? We understand it's a critical concern, right? We need to find housing for California's young people. It's our seed corn for future economic development.
And it's interesting you bring up the young, because I've learned that, look, we have a dearth of housing in California, period. market rate and otherwise. The challenge we face is that, especially on the coast, nothing's affordable. I mean, you graduate from UCLA or Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, you want to stay in that market, you can't. So where do we go with those challenges?
Well, we're going to try to find land. So one of the ideas that we shared with the Senate President Pro Tem and the Governor is we have a Cal reuse program in the Treasurer's office. Oftentimes developers don't want to look at a particular piece of land, the brownfields, because they're afraid of the environmental liabilities. So what we would do is we would provide money up front to examine those lands, the urban infill. And if those lands could be developed, the developer would pay back those lands back into the state that would recycle again, and they could develop those lands. And we could use
it for
affordable rehousing.
And?
Well, we need the governor and legislature to take action on that.
I want to talk about the other side of the spectrum, when those young people get old. We all do, and they're looking to retire. Now, some folks work at companies with really top-notch retirement plans. They're able to contribute a part of their salary. The company will often match. Other folks may not work at companies that have those programs, or they may be entrepreneurs. They may be self-employed, and they don't have those savings options. I understand you're working to create alternatives for those folks.
Yeah, so retirement security is a growing crisis in California and the United States of America. As you just pointed out, Brad, we have 6.2 million Californians who are working today but don't have access to an employer-provided retirement plan. Right? We have nearly 50% of the baby boom generation here in California with insufficient retirement savings. If we don't fix that, we're going to have a safety net financial crisis in California. So I am advocating, this is Kevin De Leon's brainchild.
Who is the Senate Pro Tem?
Exactly, a retirement security plan. Basically, it would create an automatic payroll deduction function that employers would reduce the automatic payroll deduction. The numbers demonstrate that when somebody participates in that type of program, 15% chance of increased participation, or 15 times increased participation in saving for themselves.
Where does that money go?
It goes into, we are creating various investment products. Some people are concerned about losing principal, so that we'll have more conservative investment options.
Will it be a part of like a CalPERS, a CalSTRS?
No, this is separate from CalPERS, CalSTRS. This will be, we're going to add its design, and we don't have a final design, but we're looking at private sector options. But we're going to negotiate to make sure that we get better fees and rates.
So the state will not be holding the funds.
This is not the.
It's not
the government's
CalPERS,
not responsible. Right, the employers aren't going to have any ERISA responsibility. They're not going to have legal responsibility. This is sort of like your IRA or another type of private sector product, but we're creating the incentive for automatic savings.
The plan seems wise. What needs to happen? You said the Senate Pro Tem is looking to move this forward. Where do we go from here?
So the Secure Choice Board, which is a 9-member board,
exists already.
Right, is looking at the legal liability and fiscal feasibility of these programs. It's basically yes. We're trying to come up with the top recommendations for the lawmakers and the governor to review, and hopefully they will implement some type of plan in this upcoming year.
Do you feel as if we could see this plan launched within the next year or two? I mean, we need it.
Well, we're going to move it forward. The aggressive schedule would have it in implementation next year, but probably a couple years out.
His name is John Chiang. He is the treasurer of the great state of California. We are joining you from San Jose, California at the California Democratic Party Convention. We are so glad you're with us on Charter Local Edition. You can always find us on social media. I'm at Brad Pomerance. This is Charter Local Edition.